Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is April. I go by Ruby Rouge here on the YouTubes. I can't believe this is a March update. But this is the March update. I panned that palette, Size Matters. This is a Pantastic Ladies Collab. It's the theme for the year of 2022. This year's theme was the idea of Jessica Lee, and the goal was to pick a big or bulky palette, so I chose this one. It's the Tati Beauty Texture Neutrals Volume 1. As most of you all know, this palette has been discontinued now. So how did month 2 go? Once again, I'm still not sure. I'm just not sure. But here are the before and afters from 1 month of use. I don't know what the camera will pick up, but I can definitely see the first signs of usage. No dips, but a lot of disturbance for the shadows in here. So the goals of the palette this year is that I hit pan on every shade. I thought that I could get there by using this palette 30 times every month. Each shadow in a look counts as one use. So how did I do? Well, this month my goal was 30 and I hit 25. It's one more than last month. Still not goals, but I have had a couple of realizations this month that give me more hope that I will still be able to hit pan on this palette. So, at the beginning, or last month, I ended up looking up the weights for the powder shadows, and they are 0.404 ounces, or 1 gram a piece, so they're about the same size as my Pan That palette from last year. But my friend Ruth Foley here on YouTube was playing with this palette last month, and she had taken some of the pans out. So I took some of my pans out. And these guys are so shallow. I had no idea how shallow they were. So I can finally see how these pans, or how these shadows, and the shadows in my Huda Beauty palettes have the same weight. But the cool thing is, do you know what this means? It means that hitting pan is going to be a whole lot easier than I thought. Hopefully, anyways. Finishing them off would still require the same amount of work, but hitting pan should be doable because it's, you know, it's less thick. It's not as thick as the other ones. Last month, I was feeling a little bit down on the palette and just generally not inspired, but I think I'm starting to work on some of my issues. I think that the lack of cool tones and transition shades isn't really working for me that much, but I can work around it. I have really been reaching for an old Pan That palette to fill in the gaps. As always, this VZ Art formula is just complementary to whatever you pair it with. It's working great with the formula of these, even though they're completely different. It's lovely with the palette. We've got the pink, we've got the grays, great transitions. I just prefer transitions. I like transitions, and I'm getting some use out of an oldie, but a goodie, a really goodie. Yeah, that's cool. Another interesting thing that I'm really noticing about this palette is the shadows really seem to work best one at a time. I rarely like my look when I use more than one shadow from the palette at a time, 2 tops. And I think that's due to 1, a lack of transition shades, and 2, all the shadows really have the same depth. Like with the exception of the Aura row, like, when you think about the color story, it's just a variation of the same color. So all of these have like the same depth. What I'm trying to say, am I getting across what I'm trying to say? They're all kind of medium to dark. Even the metallics and the glitters, everything is just kind of at the same level. So if I need like a transition or a lighter lid color to give my look a little bit more contrast, I have to reach to something else. Anyway, that's just random thoughts about the color story. The palette, you know, it's still a good palette. Like, I just, Pan That palette's where you're going to learn every single little thing about the palette. So yeah, I'm picking it to death. I'm critiquing it to death, and I will until we're done. I'm very curious in December how I'm going to feel about this palette. Alright, you guys, so let's take a closer look at the palette. Okay, excuse my fingernails if you see them. I started playing around with something and I forgot I had to film this part of the video. Memory. I finally started playing with the metallic and I've used it 4 times this year. It was one of my most used shades previously. It's just a little bit different than anything I have in my collection.
However, 4 uses in the project. Memory sequin, I didn't use this month. Memory matte, I'm still using, I used it 3 times last month and 4 times this month. I have a total of 7. Ritual metallic, I used 1 time. Total for both months. Sequin, I used 3 times total. And matte, I used 2 more times for a total of 3. Story, I did not use at all this month. It's the orange shade, so I still have 1 use in the metallic shade and 1 use in the sequin shade. Soothe, I used metallic 2 more times. The sequin shade I used 1 more time for a total of 4, and the matte shade I used 2 more times for a total of 3. Aura metallic I used 2 times, plus I had 2 uses already, so I'm at 4. Matte I used 2 more times, plus I had 1 time for last update, so now I'm at 3. And then the matte shade, I have 3 total uses. And then Poet, we have the metallic. I used 1 time, I had 1 use, so I'm at 2. Sequin, I had 1 time, I had 1 use, I'm at 2 again. And Poet matte, I actually used 5 more times, so now I am at 6 uses.
And that's my update, y'all. I will keep adding to the lookbook at the end of the video every month. Thank you so much for stopping by and checking out how I'm doing with this palette. I know last month was a little meh. I do feel slightly better about the palette this month, so that's encouraging. I also want to thank all of you who gave me encouragement and inspiration and ideas on the last update. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And alright, Pan That Palette March update is in the books. The Tati Neutral Volume 1 palette. We'll see you all again in April, and I will see you again later this week. Bye!